It's not your job to teach people how to communicate, behave, or show up for you. It's not your job to beg and chase adults for connection and clarity. Date people who match your standards. Befriend those who value friendship like you. Release the connections you've outgrown. As tweeted by Sylvester McNutt. Hello. Hi. I've been gone for a week. I feel like I've been gone for ages. Hey everybody, welcome to Tuesday's episode of the Toy Talks podcast. My name is Toya Washington and I am the creator and the host of the Toy Talks podcast and platform. Now, I don't even know how long this podcast episode going to be because we have a lot to catch up on. So first, let's address the tiny little elephant in the room. Obviously, last week, there was no podcast episode. And now, if you follow me on social media, especially like Instagram, my personal Instagram page is Toya_Washington. I tweeted? No, I don't think I did tweet. But I posted on Instagram that there wouldn't be an episode. And it wasn't planned or anything, hence why I didn't mention it in the episode the week before last. However, I can't sit here and talk about work-life balance. I can't talk about being kind to yourself and showing yourself love and recognizing where your limits and boundaries sit if I don't show that within myself. And you all know, like, I talk about the things I live and I teach and talk about things that happen and I talk from a place of experience, but equally I don't just talk about the good, I talk about the bad and the in-between. And for me, I've just been feeling very run very exhausted. And if you know, to provide context for those people who are maybe new to the podcast or the platform, you know, I've been doing the podcast for about 2 years now, and I've taught myself how to record, mix, edit, everything, even like doing like the treatment for the episodes. I do it all myself. And then I'm a producer, man. Yeah, man, I'm a producer. Yeah, I'm a producer. But I do it all in-house. I do it all myself. And I'm not sitting here saying that, you know, that's the right thing to do, but it's just kind of worked for the format of Toya Talks. And I do that. I run 2 businesses. I consult through one of my businesses. I keep doing, I need to stop that. But I have more than one contract. You know, my day job, but consulting is what I love to do. And I balance that and do the Toy Talks podcast. I've got the website, I've got the masterclasses, I've got a member of staff. I have another member of staff now as well. So I'm really busy, and I'm also planning a wedding blessing as well. So it's just a lot. And I just felt like I couldn't deliver to the standard I'm used to delivering. And I've always said, like, for me, I know how I measure myself. I am my greatest critic, and I will never ever put subpar content out. I'd rather just not. And I knew how I was feeling, and I knew that, you know, yeah, maybe I could have recorded, but you would have heard it, you would have felt it. And for me, whenever you listen to a podcast, whenever you hear me speak on Instagram, I always want you to really learn something. And if I'm tired, how can I be concise in the messaging that I'm trying to communicate? So I just decided, you know what? I can't do the podcast. And the way I look at it is, those people who learn, those people who are able to connect with the podcast and platform will rock with me, you know, and they will come back when there is a new episode. But for me, every single Tuesday, God willing, there will be a new episode. And if there is time when I need to step away, I will always post. I'll always, you know, give people as much notice as possible that there's not going to be an episode. But one thing I have always been on the podcast and the platform in its entirety is consistent. And, you know, for me, if it's twice a year where I just have to kind of take a step back from the podcast and regroup, then that's what I'm prepared to do. So I've taken my one day, okay? And now I'm showing back. I'm showing up. So I don't even know where to start. But this podcast episode, we are going to talk about Florence, and we're going to go into a bit more detail. Now, if you've listened to previous episodes, and I'm hoping that last week you used it as an opportunity to catch up on previous episodes and at least be up to date. So Florence, you know, she's head of commercial at a organisation where I'm contracting my services. She hasn't been in the organisation for long. She's been there, a few months. However, she is a bullet in a china shop. She has basically taken I don't know if it's taken a dislike to me. I don't know what the case is. I think that she has a deep-rooted problem with consultants, because typically consultants obviously earn good money and possibly on par, if not more than her. And she has sought to discredit my work and therefore attack my integrity. That's basically what she's done. So where we left it is I had a conversation with HR and I told them I wanted to go down the formal route. And obviously that's kind of where I've gotten to. And this has progressed in a way that is very wild, but in a way that I need to tell you all, because no matter how senior you get, no matter how much money you command within your seniority as a subject matter expert, the madness of the devil still prevails, and you have to be able to still secure the bag, but be able to kind of deal with these demons and dragons, and that is on period. And it is exhausting, I've just given you a rundown of all the things I do, and then you're dealing with kind of the negativity at work that comes with being a subject matter expert. And as Black women, they don't want to see us thrive, and if we are thriving, they want to have a hand in oppressing us so that they can have control. So I will, obviously, as the podcast continues today, I will explain to you what's happened. And some of you are going to be shocked, but some of you won't be. Because if you trust the process and a lot of the things that I've taught on the podcast, it will be clear why I took certain decisions and where we are right now. What I will say is my last day is next week, Thursday, which is the 30th of June. But before we get into all of that, there was a few things I wanted to cover. You know how we do. We talk about popular culture before we kind of get into the throes of the podcast episode. So there is a rail strike action this week, and the way the media sensationalizes kind of it's the worst since World War One and all this. In World War One, where they're using trains or trams. I mean, do you know what I mean? But basically, they're taking strike action because of pay. And I read something recently as well, I think as recently as earlier today, where doctors and teachers are threatening to strike around the same time too because of pay. Doctors and nurses and teachers. And as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to teachers, doctors and nurses, they are like the unsung heroes. And we've seen that in action over the last 2 years. And even before then, they're amazing. And the way the Conservative Party have treated doctors and teachers is absolutely diabolical. There's no justification for it. The fact that nurses have to pay parking on hospital grounds, I will never understand it. I just don't get it, because some of the doctors and nurses and anaestheticians or just medical professionals have to drive in. That's how they get to do their job, so they can save lives and they look after people, right? But then you said to them, right, we're going to pay you peanuts, and out of that peanuts, you're going to pay for your parking. So if your shift is 12 hours, you're going to pay the 12 hours. If you don't, you get clamped. So then you'd have to pay the ticket for the clamping. It's actually very wild how we mistreat elderly people, how we mistreat teachers, doctors, nurses. I think it's just medical professionals. I think it's disgusting, to be honest with you. And I've got a few friends who are teachers, and there's some stories that they've told me. And, I had a really, serious conversation with one of my friends a couple of years ago, and she told me how much she was on, and I couldn't believe it. She's an absolutely phenomenal teacher, and I said to her, you need to be a supply teacher and contract your services out. Then you need to think about how to diversify what you do. And she is a private tutor, and she is earning really, really good money, and she will only work with a certain echelon of society. And as a Black woman, she tells me of some of the issues that she has to deal with as a Black tutor, as a Black teacher. But she says, you know what, Toya, it's nothing like having to deal with things in school and the politics of kind of teaching and wanting to rise up the ranks, but knowing that in order for you to make a certain amount of money, then you have to work in certain schools, like private schools, and they have their own white constructs that is very oppressive towards Black teachers. And even having that conversation with my friend was just absolutely amazing, just to have that knowledge, and she's gone on and she's really utilized the pandemic, and she's gone on to be a private tutor. But you know, to think that there are people who are so intrinsic into the fabric of our society that are so mistreated and so poorly paid, then people are complaining about the strike. Well, they have to strike because they need to make an impact, you see. Because when one is trying to get around the table with Boris is too busy, allegedly, bonking or doing some things. Like, they did like a timeline of his time. This man has had many affairs in office. He has lied. He has done all this stuff. This man is still the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, is what I just, white privileges really, really, really with this guy. And I don't know whether it's because nobody wants to kind of be his successor. I don't know whether it's because no one's earmarked. I don't know what it is. But Dominic Cummings, I'm going to need you to operate real quick because we are done with Boris Johnson. So yeah, there is rail strike action that's impacting a lot of train lines, especially in London, and a lot of people being asked to work from home. Now, some of you, I mean, should be used to working from home over the last 2 years. I don't know why everyone's making it a big deal about working from home. I've seen one organisation tweet something and I'm like, hang on a minute, but you was in lockdown and you were using a courier service, so what are we really doing right now? So yeah, I know there's some people who are going to be affected by the strike action, but I think we need to be open-minded to understand where these people are coming from, especially over the last 2 years when we've had to be in lockdown. We've been in certain situations where we have to sit with ourselves. And I don't know about other people, but I saved the most money I've ever saved during lockdown. And I'm a saver. I love to make money and save it, but I saved so much during lockdown. And I think there's a lot of people that were in that position, but there were frontline staff that weren't in that situation. The demand for medical professionals was really high because of COVID. And what a lot of these medical professionals are asking for is to be paid a reasonable wage so they can actually live. The cost of living crisis is magnifying the disparity between kind of what people earn. And we're talking about doctors and nurses who held the country together, and medical professionals who held the country together during its worst crisis, one of its worst crises being COVID. And as we go into winter, again, claps is not going to do it, you know? So in terms of the rail strike action, I you know, but people that work for the trains, they earn good money, but you know, I don't want to get into the politics of it. At the end of the day, I think the cost of living crisis has magnified the fact that people are now starting to take stock about what they earn and realise they're not earning enough, or at least they're not earning enough through this period. Now, my husband works in finance, and I'm not going to say exactly what he does, but let's just say he is very well versed in finance. And he said to me, Toya, we're in a recession. And I was like, but they haven't actually used that word in. And he says they haven't used that word in, but it is effectively a recession. And in the US, they're actually going through a recession at the moment, and they've actually labelled it a recession. But within the UK, they're calling it the cost of living crisis. It's actually a recession. And if they're not using the words now, in a couple of weeks' time, I expect them to use it, especially during winter when it's all dark and dreary. You know, they'll come now. They've already started with their COVID mongering. They've started because now they want you guys to go and take the booster. Instead of them to boost people's wage, they're now coming to tell everyone to come and take the booster because we're going into winter. Germany has actually, they're trying to go through their parliament to mandate the use of masks between October and March, which is obviously the winter months. And that is what they're doing as a precaution or to mitigate the rising cases of COVID. Whereas in the UK, we're just going to pretend like COVID don't exist. COVID is taking summer break. COVID is in Turkey and Malta having a holiday, honey. COVID ain't over here in the UK. Completely wrong. So there have been identified as 2 variants of concern. We have rising cases of COVID in, I think it's Scotland, and I'm almost, it's Scotland. And they're very concerned about the winter months and kind of what's going to happen. Now, I'm going to put it out there. I think we're going to go into lockdown for winter. That is my prediction, okay? I'm just predicting that we're going to go into lockdown. There are going to be, number one, there's going to be some restrictions. I think the fact that they have completely removed testing, they've also removed, you know, on the news we were seeing like the cases, they were telling us about the cases of people with COVID. They've completely stopped all of that because it's part of Boris Johnson's living with COVID. And the reality is, it's not us that wants to live with COVID. COVID wants to live amongst us, which means that whilst people are not... Listen, you've got a government who were partying during lockdown rules that they were imposing. And then you're going to say to people, right, we need you to take boosters. People have lost all type of confidence in this government, and people are tired. And I don't think this country is disciplined enough to take a booster. I mean, for me, I'm not even vaccinated, so they've boosted off, so it's not even going to happen. But do you know what I'm saying here? So I think that, yeah, we're going to go, I think as we enter the winter months, I think we're going to see more rising cases of COVID. I think the conversation is going to shift towards kind of looking at COVID, and that the government are going to now start campaigning for boosters. And then I think that we are going to have some restrictions, and I think there will be a lockdown. I predict at least, I think there'll be 2 lockdowns, but we're a minimum of 1. That's my view. And we get to go back to this episode if it does happen, and I get to tell you all I told you so. So, Burna Boy. Oh! What is going on? So, allegedly, there is a club in Nigeria. It's not alleged, actually. There is a club in Nigeria called Cabana. It's actually named after an Igbo man in Nigeria who's really wealthy, really, really rich. He's like one of the richest guys in Nigeria. One of, because there's a few of them. He's not as rich as Dangote, though. Anyway, and in this club, Burna Boy was in the club, and he was with his boys. And there was a group also, so Burna Boy was in the VIP section, and it was like, for example, on the left, there was another VIP section on the right. On the right was a group of people who had come from America to celebrate their friends getting married. Now, apparently, allegedly, Burna Boy sent one of his friends to go over to one of the women in the party of people who had come from America to celebrate their friend's wedding, and basically said, you know, Burna Boy wants to talk to you. She was like, oh, I'm not interested, you know, I'm with my friends, and you know, I'm married and everything. So she shared that she was married. This man returned 2 or 3 times because Burna Boy had sent him back to come and get the woman. So the woman, basically, Burna Boy wanted the woman to come and join him where he was, over on the left, within the VIP section. So obviously, the males there, especially her husband, are getting a bit irritated. It's like, you've just said, like, why you keep coming here? Like, she's married. Anyway, long story short, there was an argument. Then somebody, I say somebody, but one of the American parties, and when I say American party, they're Nigerian themselves, black, Nigerian, but they're American. Apparently the husband had a bullet that grazed his head, and he was hospitalized, and somebody else within that party was shot in the thigh. Now, as this commotion was all happening, but obviously Burna Boy's allegedly friends or whatever were the people that, you know, were shooting. And Burna Boy then left and went into his car, and as he was leaving, he was like, people were saying, you know, you need to call off your guys, and apparently he was just like, Now, before the actual shooting actually happened, apparently, allegedly, it was Burna Boy that gave the signal to kind of, you know, not say to them, you know, you need to do something, and that is apparently, allegedly, why the shooting happened. Whatever the case is, the young lady who kind of rebuffed his advances through his friend, then, you know, she's screaming, there's a lot of commotion, people are running, and then she finds herself outside, and she's on the floor, and then she looks up, and the same guy that had kept approaching her, he was like, oh, you think that you're nice or something because of your nyash or whatever, and then he shows her his gun, and as he goes to reach for the gun, apparently her friends come running out, looking for her, and the guy runs away. Now, the young lady has gone onto social media to share kind of what's happened. Up until this recording, Burna Boy has not said anything to kind of defend himself or anything. And the owner of the club, and allegedly at the time, had said he's going to investigate things like this, but nothing's happened. The police are no longer investigating kind of the shootings. Bearing in mind, 2 people were hospitalised. One of them had to have a blood transplant because they'd lost so much blood from being shot in the thigh. The police in Nigeria are not investigating this, right? And obviously we Nigerians know what it is. Now, this is all alleged, obviously, because he wasn't there. There's been no police investigation. There's no conclusion. There's been no trial. I'm just going to give my opinion. I think this happened. I believe the lady. And I think the problem that Burna Boy has is nyash. Yeah? He love bomb. Yeah? He love a bomb. But I don't know what it is, yeah. This is my opinion. I think Burna Boy is a very talented musician. I think he's an artist. I think he's absolutely phenomenal, gifted and talented. But I think he's very disrespectful. I think he's very arrogant. And personally for me, I don't think he's very good looking. And I just get this vibe from him. Like, he really likes this whole, like, in my opinion, this whole, like, gang thing. You know, we all know why he was banned from Nigeria. Hadn't been to banned from the UK. Hadn't been to the UK for 10 years. We all know kind of what happened, or we all heard what happened. And I feel like you sending someone to a group and a woman says that she's married, that's the end of it. Yeah? But I definitely feel as though the way Burna Boy is gassed, I think he feels like he can have access to anything and to anyone. And I think he took the rebuff as a slight. And I think that he knows that the people he's with are so willing to prove themselves to him so that he can like pamper them and look after them financially or otherwise, that they're willing to do stuff that is completely disgraceful. And they did it in the name of Burna Boy. And he could have called it off. He could have stopped them. In my opinion, at least he could have attempted, even if he failed to. And he just attempted, but he chose not to. And he just drove off. And he's not even apologised. He hasn't defended himself. He hasn't said anything. And I think he does need to say something. Because at the end of the day, it's just given arrogance, it's given smelly, and something is completely wrong. And a lot of us know like the scene in Nigeria. We know what it's like. And I think Burna Boy is kind of hailed as like, you know, he's really in high esteem. But I definitely think that something needs to be said about a woman having to constantly rebuff somebody and not them, and this person just not taking the hint. And Burna Boy needs to understand not everybody's on his vibe. Not everybody wants that. Not everybody's interested. Some people are actually happily married and don't want to do anything with him. What was the woman supposed to do? Go and stand there and look at him and stroke his sideburns? I don't understand. Anyway, moving on. I wanted to address that because I've got issues with Burna Boy anyway, and Steph London. But Burna Boy is really, he's annoying. Anyway, those of you who have not been watching The Real Housewives of Lagos, where have you been, please? That rock. Oh, you need to climb out. So those of you who've been watching The Real Housewives of Lagos, what I am going to say is this. I really like Laura. And let me tell you why I like Laura, because I recognise that she has social anxiety. She's got social anxiety, and I think that all that bravado is to hide her insecurities. I think that she is somebody who is not as in the limelight as her sister Linda Ikeji. Linda Ikeja. This is Linda Ikeja. It's not Ikeji. Yeah, it's Linda Ikeja. Laura's Igbo, by the way. And I think that Laura is... I think she fell into and allowed herself to be the villain. And then she realised it was too hot for her. And by then it was already too late because she'd already committed. But I will say that what I love about her the most is her loyalty towards her sister. Those of you who know Linda Ikeja, is it Ikeji or Ikeja? I think it's Ikeji. Toya. Hey, yeah. Anyway, we know who we're talking about. Famous blogger in Nigeria. Controversial. Her sister was so controversial. Laura's sister, oh God. Anyway, I love Laura's loyalty to her sister. And it's unwavering, and it's a type of loyalty I think that is so beautiful. She will, you know, it's loyalty defined, and I love that about Laura. Now, Choma is also one of my faves, and I love Choma because Choma understood the assignment. Okay, she understood that she was on The Real Housewives of Lagos, and she's not a housewife, and she's not a real wife. She's just Choma, philanthropist, businesswoman and barrister. Yes, she's been called to the bar. She's a very intelligent woman, and Igbo babe to the core, to the center. And she used it as an opportunity to also showcase her philanthropy and to showcase her charitable organizations. And I love the fact that she used it for exposure. Choma used Real Housewives of Lagos for exposure, and I think it worked to her favor as well, because I think whenever before I used to see Choma and Kika, you would more focus on Kika because Kika is a lot more controversial, and Choma seems a bit more kind of toned down a little bit, whereas we got to see a lot more of Choma's personality in The Real Housewives of Lagos. And actually I really liked her, and I liked that she was very straight talking. However, I didn't like the way a lot of the women treated her. It's this whole you know, they see it as, oh, because you're from the UK, you're Ajibota. Ajibota's like, they think that she's like a, like she has, you know, she's not really a true kind of Nigerian babe. They see her as like, oh, you're British type thing. And I love the fact that Choma didn't allow that to dull her shine. She was always the best dress. She would always do what she needed to do, and she didn't allow the women to oppress her in culture in the way that I know a lot of like women in Nigeria, like older women, like aunties would do, because I know that I've experienced that, and I've had to tell a few aunties, before you come chat to me, you need to go and tell your child who the father is. Before you come chat to me, you need to go and attend that prison visit, and stop telling us that your son is in the army when he is not. You know them ones there. So I really like Choma, and Caroline is do you know why I'm not surprised between the argument with Choma and Caroline? It's because this, from when Caroline is supposed to be Choma's friend and vice versa, and Caroline's having an argument, then she opens her mouth to tell the group, you know, in the heat of the moment, she's arguing with one woman, and she says, well, Choma said this, that, and the third. Now, Choma did semi-check her, but Choma didn't check her properly. But when Caroline did that, I knew that Caroline is a snake, a snake in a green grass. So the fact that Choma and Caroline had a massive argument and a massive falling out when they went to Dubai was no surprise. I think Caroline is very jealous of Choma, and I think the line of the entire season was when Laura and Caroline were arguing, and Laura said to Caroline, you are married to a billionaire and yet you don't even have one designer bag. The reason I found that funny is the level of low pettiness that Laura went to say that. And the thing is, I then went to go and look for Caroline's designer bag. True, we never saw it. And I'm not saying designer bag defines Caroline, that's not what I'm saying. But in true Nigerian humor, I found it absolutely bloody hilarious, because the way Caroline is trying to make herself, oh, I lost my diamond bracelet, how many tens of million and thousand? But babes, I've never seen one designer bag, babe. So what if you're going to be a true babe, your handbag needs to be leveling up. Not every day nylon. So yeah, I think Choma and Caroline are the definition of frenemies, without Choma realizing that Caroline was her frenemy, whereas Choma saw Caroline as a progressive friend. And I think there's an episode to be discussed about that whole dynamic and kind of what happened, because I definitely think that a lot of people are going through a lot of shit when it comes to friends. I posted something last week on my Instagram stories, and the amount of DMs that I received, and it made me, I talk about friendships and boundaries and understanding friends, and how to I discuss, and I've even discussed my own issues that I've had to go through with friends. But I think that there is something to be discussed about manipulation in friendships. Sometimes you lot's friendships have come to an end, but the thread you are still holding on to. God wants to relinquish you from certain friendships that are not adding anything. Some of you are still holding on. You want to call this person a friend. You have a business. This so-called friend has never bought not even one thing from your business. That's not your friend. Let me tell you something. Friendship is a duty. Friendship is a duty where you have a duty to each other. However you two have defined your friendship, that is a duty. As soon as somebody is not distinguishing their duty, there's an imbalance. And when there is an imbalance, there becomes a problem. Do you understand? I also believe that some people are friends with the wrong people because you refuse to let go of the people who are not supposed to be on your journey. Some of you are forcing friends into your journey who have shown you who they are, and you still do not want to believe them. Then when that friend is not being a proper friend and not actually being a friend, you become angry. Yet this person has shown you who they are, but you didn't want to believe them. As you get, and I said this on my Instagram, I'm going to say it here before, I continue on with this podcast episode. When you get to your 30s, let me tell you something. 20s is the year of discovery. You're discovering yourself. You're trying to make sense of life. You're still walking in the wilderness. You're trying to figure out people and human beings. Your friendship groups may be evolving. You may be arguing with a lot more friends in your 20s, because you're figuring out life. It's almost like you're a bit drunk, and as you get into your 30s, your late 20s, you start sobering up because life starts to begin to start forming in your mind. When you get to your 30s, you're looking for peace and balance. Peace and balance. Because ain't no one got time to be doing the same arguments in my 30s that I was doing in my 20s. No. You will never, ever, ever hear me arguing with a friend. Apart from that one person, Caroline, that did me dirty. Yeah, you know, the one that was unemployed for 12 months and came to me and told me she needed a job, and I hooked her up, and then she literally threw it in my face and spat in my face. You remember that person? Yeah. That is the only person where I raise my voice. Otherwise, with that being the exception, I do not argue with friends. I don't have the time. My iron levels are low. So I don't have the time to now use my reserve energy to be arguing with you. It's not going to happen. Because if you have done the work in your 20s of understanding self, if you are going on that journey of self-discovery, by the time you get to your 30s, you know where your tolerance levels lie. Peace and balance. And you can't have balance unless there's peace. And you can't, with peace comes balance. Do you understand? Friendships need to be making sense. Don't let it, listen, it doesn't go above my head that I've got somebody who is, you know, for me, I've got friends, associates, and I've got people in purgatory, right? And that purgatory is like a room. They're in a waiting room because I have not decided who you are yet. I don't have very many of them. I'd say about 3 people who call me their friend and I don't call them my friend. Do you understand? Because I'm trying to figure out like their incentives here. Their motives here. And there's one of them in particular who has never even bought from my business. Never once. Never reposted anything of my business, nothing. But this person will call themselves a diehard friend of mine. You're not my friend. You're not. When I look at what friendship means, I'm looking, you know, I'm taking the magnifying glass and talking about it from a business perspective and not buying anything for my business. But how can you call yourself my friend and you're not supporting me when I have my own endeavors, but I support you in yours? And I'm one of those people, like, if you've got a business friend, whether I benefit from that business or not, I will buy something from your business, because you know what I'm doing? Not only am I reassuring you and supporting you in your endeavors, I'm sowing into my garden too. Because in genuinely showing you that support, what I'm also saying to the universe is, universe, I truly believe in my friend and what she or he is doing. And I am going to sow into them. Lord, may you also allow me to sow into my garden and allow me to harvest. It's like a boomerang. It's a boomerang. So for me personally, if I'm continuously buying from your business, you're making profit from me. Hello? That don't work. A real friend is not going to stand by and you are doing a business, but they're happy to buy Rihanna's Fenty Beauty. They're happy to buy Ivy Park by Beyonce. They're happy to purchase them Yeezys. They're happy to buy everything from anyone else, but they're not willing to spend not even £10 in your business. That ain't your friend. That's your enemy. That is, because an enemy, you see when they say the word enemy, I think they sensationalize it, but there's degrees of enemies. There's frenemies, people who want to be your friend, but know that they have to also be an enemy because they lack the ability to fully commit to a friendship. And you've got people who are enemies within, whereby they think that they're smarter than you. They think that you don't realize that actually they're just there to cause a commotion, devil's own agents. Yeah, and you've got to be able to understand the difference. The problem that Choma had with Caroline is Caroline showed Choma who she was, but Choma was still blindly trying to support a friendship that it couldn't blossom to what Choma needed, because her and Caroline had different definitions of loyalty and friendship, period. But you know what? Let me not go into that too much, because we're going to do a whole episode about that relationship. It's so interesting and so many teachable and learning moments. Lastly, hey, Toya Talks Masterclasses. So over the last couple of weeks, I have been doing a lot on Toya Talks. And one of the things that I wanted to come on here and talk about is the masterclasses. So if you go onto my website, all the masterclasses are sold out. Now, I did also share in the last episode that I'm having to migrate my back-end hosting of those masterclasses because the company that I use has been bought by Amazon, and Amazon have decided to close down that company. And it's so upsetting because the back-end was absolutely amazing. Sales was great for what I do in terms of like the masterclasses and things like that. So I have obviously had to do a lot of work on the back-end, and there's been a lot of meetings, there's been a lot of back and forth, and there's still a lot of work to do. But that has also been the catalyst of what I'm about to talk to you about now. And it's about for me, the masterclasses are an added resource to the podcast. And we have the interview skills masterclass, CV masterclass, redundancy masterclass, negotiation masterclass, and the mother and daughter masterclass. And for me, it's always been about allowing people to have the knowledge so that they can use the practical skills in the working world as Black women, and to teach you all what we don't get taught in schools. So for me, it's also about giving you guys my blueprint, because, for example, I get 95% of jobs that I go for interview for. I get 95% of those jobs. My formula works, because the 5% that I don't get is either the company realising I'm not going to stay, or it's they realise actually, we can't afford her. Like, we've tried to kind of bring down her rate or negotiate a salary, that is reasonable to them, but it doesn't reflect my abilities. So that's the 5%. But the point I'm making here is that I've the blueprint works for me, so I'm willing to share it with you all. So that's why, for me, the masterclasses are so important. And there's so many people who have purchased the masterclasses, so many people who have given me feedback. I've got people who have moved to Dubai. I've got people who live in South Africa and have Dubai contracts. I've got people who have been able to pivot. I've got people who have negotiated their salaries to 10 times what they currently earn or what they had earned before. I've got people who were unemployed for months, and then they go and do the CV masterclass, and suddenly they've got all these interviews. So for me, it's the results. But I wanted to add to the masterclasses. So you all know that the probation masterclass has been something that has been much needed, and it's been one thing after another. And I know that with the existing masterclasses, the commercial space is changing. So I need to be able to add to them. So what I have used this opportunity to do is develop a Toya Talks Academy. So the Toya Talks Academy is effectively masterclasses that already exist and new masterclasses. So we're talking about the probation masterclass, the resignation masterclass, the ACAS masterclass, and we're dealing with letters before action, what ACAS actually do, how you engage with ACAS, and I'm not just doing those masterclasses, they're going to be templates. With the existing masterclasses, there is going to be like commercial updates. So for example, with the CV masterclass, since the uploads of that masterclass, there have been changes in the way we work, like remote working and things like that. And I will be adding to the existing masterclasses to deal with changes in the commercial space. So what would happen is you would sign up to these masterclasses and you'll have a dashboard of all your masterclasses that you've purchased. Any updates, will be on there automatically, and you'll be notified of all the updates. But equally, it's about creating a great user experience. So where you would buy a masterclass, the confirmation email, you press play and it'd be there. It's going to be completely different now, where you'd sign up to the Toya Talks website in the masterclass area, and then once you've signed up and you purchase a masterclass, it will be on your dashboard. And on that dashboard will be any modules. So the CV masterclass may have a work from home module, how you deal with work from home from a CV perspective, and how you formulate that in your CV so it's clear that that's kind of what you want, or hybrid working environment, or whatever the case is, or any type of add-ons that I think you should be adding to your CV. I'll be able to add those modules into the masterclasses within the Toya Talks Academy. So those are the new updates that are coming. And I'm hoping that shows you all the work that has gone into Toya Talks in the background and the stuff that I don't necessarily talk about. That also being said, I've heard you all, okay? And something that I regularly get is, you will want some FaceTime with me. I've been asked about mentoring and things like that. And I don't have the time to do individual mentoring. I can do group mentoring. So what you are also going to get from the Academy is also live webinars. So I'll be doing certain webinars. So those people who have signed up to Toya Talks Academy will be notified either via the newsletter that you would have signed up for on the website, or just being part of the Academy, of any up and coming webinars. So for example, something that I've actually always wanted to do is show you how to mark up an employment contract when you get a job offer, and how to therefore negotiate certain key clauses within your employment contract. And now more than ever, I think that information and that education needs to be given. So these are all things that are coming to the back end, and it will be in July. So I anticipate that you'll be able to see those things second week of July. And between now and the second week of July, I've got a lot of recording, a lot of editing to do, a lot of templates that will go with all these masterclasses. And I'm absolutely excited about the evolution of those masterclasses, because more than anything else, I just want you all to be equipped with the tools, because if you have the tools, you're able to go into the working world and be able to be confident in your CV, be able to be confident in that interview. For example, I'm going to have a template of possible interview questions that you could pose to your interviewer. And they will be agnostic of whatever industry you're in, but give you a guide of the questions that you should just naturally be asking anyway. And also as well, I feel like sometimes when you go into an interview setting, sometimes you're quite shy, or you have brain freeze. At least you'll have it there. And understanding as well that you can take your notebooks in there as well, and you can look through your notebook. You can do these things. I think this is an employees market whereby the commercial space has changed so much that interviews in itself has changed. So even with interview masterclass that already exists, I will do a module on remote interviews. How do you do remote interviews? What are the things you should prep? And I do kind of mention it quite high level in the interview masterclass already, but I want to have a separate module within the interview masterclass that deals with remote interviews. I want to be able to do a mock interview. Yeah, a role play mock interview as a module within the Toya Talks Academy. So that's basically all the things that are happening, and this is why I'm so tired all the time. So those people who have already purchased masterclasses, you will get an email, and in that email it will basically tell you what's going to happen. And once we relaunch the masterclasses, the Toya Talks Academy, you're going to get a link or a coupon that will enable you to go onto my website and repurchase. And I say repurchase, but it'll be obviously for free because you've already bought it already, but you'll get like a gift card or a coupon, and you would sign up to Toya Talks, and all the masterclasses that you've already purchased, you'll be able to use the coupon to get them again, and they will be in your dashboard. So you're not having to go look for your email to find the confirmation to press play. You just have to remember your username and your password that you would have used to sign up to the academy, and it will all be there on your dashboard. The academy is for anyone in any sector. I don't just deal with people in the corporate world. I'm no longer in the corporate world. It's for me, it's about Black women in the working world, and it encapsulates everybody. And also as well, people going into the working world from university who have got no clue about the world of work. Well, we've got a whole Toya Talks Academy whereby we have all these different masterclasses, all these different templates, and you have them all in your dashboard, and you're able to go into them. I'm going to have quizzes for each masterclass as well, so almost to test your understanding of the masterclasses. So after the masterclass there'll be quizzes, and you'll be able to do a couple of quizzes as well, and you'll be able to obviously ask questions if there is any other questions that you have. But for me, it's having all that information all in one place, so it can free me up to continue to create more masterclasses on different topics, and obviously the podcast, and develop Toya Talks in general. So yeah. Also as well, I have also heard that everybody is asking for a Toya Talks live, and all I will say to you is just stay tuned. Stay tuned, and follow me on social media, because I have a feeling that if I was to do a Toya Talks live, it will sell out real quick, as it did do in 2018. But I will leave that there. So I have done all the things I need to talk about. We need to catch up, right? Because we haven't seen each other, heard each other for a week. I want to get on to the nuts and bolts of this podcast episode. Now, I'm hoping that this podcast episode, which I think I'm entitling Karma Never Forgets an Address, because I will forever say this to my fellow Black queens. Leverage is power. Power gives you options. Options gives you freedom. Leverage is power. If there is anything that I have learned amongst a long list of things I learned during the pandemic and the lockdown, because we're still in a pandemic despite what the government says, is that I can never be at the mercy of any business, any employer, no one. I'm not going to be. I have to be the architect of my own destiny to be able to free myself to make independent and autonomous choices. I've shared with you kind of utilizing being a consultant and having more than one consultant gig at a time, or being able to have not giving anyone exclusivity over my time. The problem that Florence has, her biggest issue with me, is that she's trying to control me and she can't. I'm seemingly unfazed by her and she can't stand it. So the last time I had left it, that I had spoken to HR and told them that I will be making a formal complaint. I made that formal complaint because they tried to tell me that it's informal, and I said, no. The first issue that I had with her, where she rendered an apology, and I have it in writing, that was informal. And now I'm going down the formal route. HR ignored me. They didn't respond to my email. Because obviously I followed it up with an email. I heard absolutely nothing. And as far as I was concerned, I was prepared to send another email. Like, they weren't going to get away with it. And that's kind of what I did. So that formal email that I sent, I then forwarded it on to the CFO and the CEO, and then the head of human resources, because it was the human resources business partner that was dealing with me. And I got an email from the CEO saying, Toya, thank you so much for your email. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Please leave this with me. I'll come back to you. And obviously for me, I was like, well, what is there to come back to me on? I want to know the next course of action here. Later on in the week, I had a meeting, and in that meeting was Florence. It was Florence, and it was a lady, what we're going to call her Annika. Annika is a commercial manager. She's not a commercial contract manager, she's just a commercial manager, and she reports directly into Florence. And also my project sponsor, who, if in effect I would say report to, she was also in that meeting, as well as the project manager. So as we're in this meeting, we're talking about the ongoing project. So basically they've obviously been signed off budget for continuation of this project, in which I was doing the commercial contract management for, negotiate the contract for, manage the SLAs, the KPIs, the contract variation. I managed all the commercial contract risks, you name it, I did it. They have not had contract management in this organisation before. So therefore, what was happening is they were failing all their internal audits. So obviously, as a kind of learning lesson, they knew for this type of project, they needed a seasoned contract manager, and that's where I came in. So as we're in this meeting now, via Teams, Florence is basically saying to Annika, while I'm there, bearing in mind that Annika has already said to me that she was asked by Florence to review the contract, that the contract hasn't been drafted properly, hasn't been managed properly. Annika went back to Florence and told her, well, no, it's an airtight contract, it's watertight, it's actually really good. And in fact, the contract management plan and everything in terms of how the contract has been managed from beginning to end is all in the files, all the rationale. Toya's done it, or it's audit ready if we were to be audited today. And she repeated it again in this meeting, and you could see Florence's face was like getting irritated. It was almost like she had hoped that Annika had found something, and Annika was like, no. So as this meeting's continuing now, and I'm not saying anything, Florence says, well, I think for the continuation of the project, we're going to have to vary the contract. So I piped up. I said, Florence? She said, yes, Toya. I said, have you read the contract? She said, well, I said, no. Have you actually read it? She said, no. I said, well, how would you know the contract needs to be varied for this new project if you've not actually read the existing contract? How do you know that there's not already things within the existing contract that would cover this additional project. And I said, Annika, do you think this contract needs to be varied? And she was like, no, Toya, you gave enough room for us to be able to use this contract for the next project. And I did put that in an email to Florence. So then Florence now is getting irritated, and she said, well, I think it needs to be varied, and as far as I'm concerned, I said, well, hopefully you'll vary it then, and then you'll let me know what those variations are, because I would have to review the risk, and you would have to have the business sign off. And I said to the person I report to, and I said, you're going to have to sign off on this variation, and I don't understand what justification you're going to use for it, but I don't support any justification, so you're not going to get buy-in from me. And you could see Florence she was frothing at the mouth. She was so angry, she switched her camera off. But something wasn't right, because I just kind of felt like, why is this woman, like, what is happening? What am I missing here? Anyway, the meeting ended with actions, and the lady I report into, she followed it up with an email with all the actions that she thinks that I need to do. No, I'm not doing any of these actions, because if you want me to do this additional project, we need a new contract. We need a new contract in place. And I'm going to charge them a higher rate. You're not going to feed off the last contract I have with you. That's not going to happen. So at the end of the meeting, I got this email, whatever. About 10 minutes later, I get a call, and it's Annika. So I pick up the Teams call. And Annika was like, Toya, I really need to speak to you. I said, oh, is it about the meeting? She was like, kind of. She was like, I already told Florence that this contract was watertight. Like, I repeated everything. So I'm not understanding why she wants to do it. I don't support it, because I see that you're very seasoned in what you do. I went through all the folders. There was no issue. I said, so basically you were sent to check in my work. She was like, no, but yes, in a way I was. But that's not how I saw it. I said, no problem. She says, Toya, I need a couple of other people to join this call. So I was thinking, what's she talking about? So 2 other people joined this call, and they're 2 people that report into Florence. I don't know them. I've not, in terms of worked with them, but I know of them. And basically, they proceed to tell me that Florence decided to contact external lawyers. Now, these are not lawyers that are on our preferred supplier list. These are external lawyers that she decided to contact. And she basically contacted them and put her commercial team on copy and said that she has grave concerns about the contract, that she deems as putting the organisation at risk, that a consultant is the person that negotiated this contract, and she questions how the supply was managed, and she would like an official audit done by the lawyers of the contract. Now, when these commercial managers who report into Florence was telling me this, I said, really? They said, yes. I said, does anybody else know about this? They said, no, just them. I said, okay. I said, can you send this email to me? Because this is just what you're telling me. I want to see what you're talking about. So they sent it to me. I said, has this happened already? They said, yeah. I said, so what was the conclusion? I want you to forward it to me. So they forwarded me the email from the lawyer, having done it. And basically the lawyer said that they deem the contract to be safe. It's a well-written commercial contract, and it's very clear where the liabilities sit. And in terms of any risk in it, they don't see any risk. And that based on the zip folder that Florence sent to them, even all the rationale, everything is fine. And in fact, the contract is written in such a way that allows a continuation of the use of the contract as long as the scope remains the same. So I've got this all in an email. So when Annika sent it to me, it was in a zip folder, and I saw all the correspondence between Florence and the external lawyers. So then I asked them, I said, how did she get sign off for this? Because she would have had to pay for this through the contract budget. But how would she be able to do that without getting a signature from me or an approval email from me to be able to use the budget apportioned for this project to get external advice. And it's not a preferred supplier. So how has she done this? Because that means she's even breached the internal governance, because it has to be somebody already on the supply, a lawyer, barrister's firm on the preferred supplier list. This is she don't know. I said, no problem. I said to them, can I ask why you're telling me all this? Because you all report into her. Why are you telling me this? They said that, it was more Annika. Annika was more the spokesperson, right? So she's like, we kind of thought you should know. And also as well, it made us uncomfortable that she was asking us to do this. And we know that she was going outside of governance on a contract that you're managing. And also as well, it put us in a difficult situation because she was saying quite disparaging things about you. I.e., she names you and saying that she feels that you have not used due care and diligence to negotiate the contract. And that to us was, it was a step too far, because she couldn't justify why she was saying it. And she can't even justify going to an external law firm out. And you've got to remember something. When I was negotiating that contract, we used a preferred external law firm. And that preferred external law firm had no, I don't know why they use these particular people, but they had no commercial acumen. So I had to give them the commercial overlay. And I was actually drafting most of this contract. And it was literally getting them to have a cursory review and make sure that, it was in line with what I was, almost like a second or third pair of eyes. So we've already done this in the initial stages of the negotiating this contract. But Florence has gone a step further. She has literally gone outside the governance process to find a law firm. They have barristers within that law firm. And when I did my research, the person who she asked to review it is actually a barrister. So they call them general counsel. So I said, okay. I said, but I'm just going to say something. If you all knew that this was wrong, why didn't you go to my project sponsor and tell her what was happening? Why have you come to me? Because what it feels like now is you all are either intimidated or whatever the situation is, because I can't imagine that it's comfortable working with this woman, and you're looking for somebody to go and do the battle on behalf of all of you. That's how it feels for me. And it's uncomfortable because now I'm going to have to do something about this. And unfortunately, I'm not going to say who sent me this, but, you guys are putting yourself in the line of fire. So one of them piped up and he said, listen, Toya, I've been here for 6 weeks. I'm resigning next week. I said, pardon? They said, yeah. They said, I've got 158 contracts that they're asking me to do the commercial analysis for. But Florence treats me like shit. She talks to me like, the way she disrespected me in meetings is unbelievable. But what she's made us all is complicit in this campaign against you. And that's the bit that I'm not comfortable, because we don't know what she's now going to do next or ask us to do on her behalf. Anyway, long story short, ended the call. And then I sat there and I thought, where do I go from here? Because this woman hasn't just questioned something. She's actually attacked my integrity for no justifiable reason. It's not like there was a discrepancy in the contract that led her to... That's different. But she has no justifiable reason other than she just doesn't like me. And I know the reason she don't like me is because I'm a consultant, because I don't have much to do with her. The only reason why I'm on her radar is because she sits in commercial, and commercial have an oversight over the contracts. That's it. But she's made this personal now, because she's alluded to certain things and she's made disparaging comments in an email. That's called defamation of character. And one thing about me that you all know is this. I don't play when it comes to my career, and none of you should play when it comes to your career. Your personal integrity is your signature, and I've said this before. This is who you are in terms of your career. This is what you do. This has to do with your reputation. And depending on your industry, my industry is not very large, but for her to deliberately and willfully try to discredit me, it's a personal attack on me. So I decided that I'm going to be Florence's karma. You see, sometimes when people do things, we don't always get to see the karma. You know how God works, in the Bible says, vengeance is mine. And spiritually, we understand how karma works, yeah? And often, you don't get a front row seat to witness the karma. However, I decided that I would speak to the ancestors and I'd ask them for permission to be Florence's karma. Because I'd already separately gone to HR, they're ignoring me. Everyone's ignoring me. And now we have something different. So I sent an email. And this email was there was an attachment, and the subject says letter before action. And allow me to read it to you. Dear CEO, and then I CC'd the CFO, I CC'd head of HR and the HR business partner, and also the project sponsor, so the person I would report into. It has come to my attention that Florence has continued her campaign of hate against me, which has now not only become personal, but has escalated to direct attacks on my integrity and my professionalism. Given that this has now been called into question for no justifiable reason, I have been left with no choice but to issue a letter before action. I have sought to make a formal complaint against Florence for her unprofessionalism, her lack of self-control, and her general disrespect. However, this has been ignored. Moving forward, I want to be clear. I hold this organisation willfully responsible for the actions and decisions of Florence. And therefore, I see joint liability. I consider this to be a civil matter, as I am very well aware of my limiting employment rights, given that I am not a direct employee of this organisation. However, this organisation owes me a general duty of care. However, this duty of care has not been displayed, felt, or experienced by myself. Therefore, I am left with no choice but to take a civil action for defamation of character. Please find zip folder attached, which is self-explanatory as to the reasons I am pursuing this route. However, for the avoidance of doubt, let me be clear. I have been accused of professional negligence and therefore not distinguishing in my responsibilities as a commercial contract manager. I have been contracted as a senior commercial contract consultant, and part of this is contract management duties. I have delivered this contract to the best of my ability. I have also put in governance process to manage the contract management in general. I've also given recommendation of how contract management should be managed within the organisation for other projects. And more importantly, I have allowed this contract to run smoothly by giving it the rigour and the attention it deserves. It must also be pointed out that I have already delivered this contract. We are in warranty period and it is audit ready, albeit internally or externally audited. I also want to draw to your attention that Florence went outside of the governance process and sought legal counsel to review the contract. Please see emails attached within the zip folder. Again, the grounds for action is defamation of character, and I conclude that this organisation is jointly liable as you are the employer of Florence, and therefore I will be taking legal action. I will give you an opportunity to address this situation, and I wait further response from you. Full stop. I sent it. Within half an hour, the CEO a HR business partner, put a meeting in my diary. Let me be clear. I do not start any shit. I want to be able to go into a contract, deliver the contract, and go about my way because I've been paid. I don't have time for this bullshit because you've decided that you hate consultants. I'm not interested in it. This woman went out of her way to attempt to destroy me for no other reason than the fact that she just doesn't like consultants. There's no other reason. There's absolutely no reason. Because when I asked Annika what the problem was, she said it. She goes, I think it's because you're a consultant. She goes, that's the only thing I can think of, because what else is the reason? Because I can't even sit here and say it's because she thinks I'm not good at my job. She don't know what my job is. She's not even read the contract. Do you understand what I'm saying? But let it not go above anyone's head. This is an Italian woman. And I know my experiences with some Italian people. But some Italian women that I've had experiences with, they have this underlying racial issues with black people. I'm going to say it here and I'm going to say it now. How dare this black woman come in here as a consultant and earn more than me? Even though I was there before she got there. I didn't ask you to be a perm. If you want to be a perm with your chest. Don't expect everybody else to be perm if they don't want to. In this life, you have free will of choice. I have done my perm choice. And now I'm a consultant. I'm contracted and I'm enjoying myself. Leave me alone. I have more respect for somebody who has constructive criticism. I've got more respect if there was an issue. Fair enough. But not go looking for it. And you ask your people who report into you to try and dig, they can't find anything. Now you've gone outside of the governance process to go and get a lawyer of your choice or a barrister's firm of your choice or whoever of your choice to come and do what? You must have lost your mind. So, the meeting with HR and the CEO. It was around 4 o'clock. So as I log into Teams, they're already there. Oh, hi, Toya. Hi. All of that shit. And one thing I can't stand, I don't like small talk. I don't do well with small talk because it's pointless and there's nothing to be gained from it other than just to occupy awkwardness. And I don't like that. I'd rather just be awkward. Then the small talk is worse because you're just being fake. Everybody knows you're being fake, but you're doing it to fill the void of silence, and I don't like it. Asking me, oh, you're enjoying the weather, and I didn't respond. I was just quiet. I've got nothing to say to you people. I've been trying to get you all to deal with this situation. I've now had to send a letter before action. Do you know the magnitude of a letter before action? This is the letter of warning before I take you to court. That's what a letter before action is. I'm putting you on notice. So the CEO says, oh, Toya, we got your email. I said, excuse me, before we start, I would like to record this. They said, excuse me? I said, yeah. There's a record functionality in Teams. I'd like to record this conversation so that there's no, misinterpretation. They said, oh, they're not comfortable with me recording it. I said, no problem. I'll take notes. Does everybody agree? They said, yes. I said, okay, no problem. Toya, we got your email, and to be quite honest with you, we're actually very shocked at the content, and we opened the zip file, and to be honest with you, we actually don't know where to go from here. You've also said, that previously in your official complaint, you said that you will not be renewing your contract past the 30th. Is that still the position? I said, yes. I said, but we're conflating two issues here. You didn't address the formal complaint, for whatever reason. We're now at the letter before action. So we're in two different areas. We're talking about two different things here. So I think we maybe need to just focus our attention on the letter before action. They said, okay, how can they settle this matter? I said, it's funny you should say that because I've been thinking about it. I said, I deliberately did not put that in the letter before action because I figured that once we get to court, I will tell the court what I'm seeking. And also the reason I didn't put it there is because I wanted to give you all an opportunity to investigate this properly and come to your own conclusion about how we will resolve this. However, since you've posed this question to me, let me be clear. I'm leaving on the 30th of June. Yes. But this is a direct attack on my business, my bread and butter. I haven't just woke up here and found myself here. I have to work hard because I'm a woman, but even harder because I'm a black woman. And even in the working harder as I'm a black woman, I'm also having to make sure that I am a subject matter expert in what I am doing because I understand the uniqueness of the skill sets required to do this role. I said, I didn't just qualify at the back of a lorry. I said, I went to law school. I have a law degree. I have a master's in law. I've done my SIPs and I have almost 8 years experience doing this. So you can imagine after building up a career like that, having worked for certain organizations, that your employee is now attacking my credibility. It is defamation of character in the true sense of the word. And she has now taken it and given it to a third party to defame me there. I said, this is what I would like. I want a letter of retraction from Florence. And it has to be addressed to me. And I want her to retract every single disparaging comment or insinuation the HR business partner was writing. And secondly, I would like a settlement figure. The CEO says, so excuse me? I said, yes, a settlement figure. Because if I take you to court, you will have to settle me there. And if I was to hire a lawyer to represent me, you have to settle them. Even though I think I will self-represent. But you'll have to pay my day rate then for me having to turn up to court to come and advocate for myself. And even before I take you to court, I have to go through mediation. If I want to use a lawyer for mediation, you guys will pay for that. And I will seek costs for my time during mediation before going to court. So, the settlement figure needs to be my last 6 invoices. She said, is there any wiggle room? I said, yeah, there's some wiggle room. But why don't you come to me with where you want to wiggle and what room you want to wiggle in? Yeah, you heard me. That's what I said to her. Because at this point, I've got nothing to lose. What's the worst thing that can happen? They say no, right? But I will still have to go to court because the defamation, I need a retraction. And you've got to remember as well, it's not my word against Florence's. It's a slam dunk. I've got it in writing. And also, Florence will now have to justify why she went outside of governance process to go to these lawyers that this organisation has not even heard of. It's targeted, it's personal, it's direct. She actually uses my name in the emails. Look at that. I want you to see the karma. Who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it though? That a meeting that I was in, then I have the meeting, Florence is in there talking shit. Then the people that report to her then call me into a meeting, they're all there and they're all giving me the evidence. It's good to be good and it's good to do things with clean hands. A job worth doing is worth doing well. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. Last week I did think to myself, I know I'm the common denominator here. But you know why I'm the common denominator? Because I'm not going to take shit. If I took shit, yeah, I would still be the common denominator. But you know what the difference would be? I would be depressed. I would be stuck. I would be fragile. And I would be broken. And those things are not an option for me. So if it means that I have to defend myself every time I am attacked, I'm going to do it. Because I'm not just defending me. I'm also replenishing into my self-esteem that these people are seeking to steal and oppress from me. You think it feels good to know that this woman has used my name in vain? Do you think it feels good? Because it doesn't. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a woman with feelings. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good that I'm having to defend myself and go through all my work just to make sure, second guess myself. You've got to pay for it. You're going to pay. I'm not going to take that shit. I haven't sacrificed and worked hard to get to where I am for this stupid Florence, not a nightingale, to come round and swinging her stupid, dirty hair around. To come and tell, your contract not managed properly, but you can't give people a reason why. Even that external lawyer even asked them, can you give us your grounds for suspecting that this... The woman didn't even respond properly. She can't give it ground. You hate this black woman so much that you're willing to destroy her to prove whatever it is in your head. Maybe that this organization shouldn't be using consultants. Then put a business case together and go and give it to your board members. I was hired because you commercial people can't do the job. Do you know what the worst part of it is? Do you know I also attached the corporate risk register? And I have access to it. And I'll tell you why I did that. In total, they have 246 contracts. Do you know 245 of them are on the risk register? 245 are on the risk register. So guess which one isn't? Because remember I said it's 246. So if there's 245, that means there's one that's not on the risk register. Guess which contract it is that's not on the risk register? The one that I've been managing. Let me tell you something. I don't want to go to war. But if you choose to go to war with me, be very careful. Because when it comes to my career that saved my life, I'm going to rip off my singlet. I'm going to rip off my Calvin Klein bra. And we will do nakedness in the center of the stadium. I'm not going to have that shit. I'm not going to have that shit. Pattern up, ladies. Pattern up. Look at a burn folder that I didn't even have. Somebody gave me the burn folder. That zip file is a burn folder with everything inside it. I didn't even build it myself. I opened it and the evidence was there. So let's go back. So the CEO says to me, is it negotiable a wiggle room? That's where we left off, Abby. So today, I received an email this morning. I'm going to say something to you. I asked for 6 months invoices. They're not going to give me that. I know they're not. The minimum I'll accept is 3 months. Guess what they offered me? 3 months invoices. So basically, what they're saying is 3 months worth of invoices. They're going to pay me the total sum of 3 months invoices on the 30th, including the invoice for up until the 30th. They said that they consider it a settlement figure. They've asked me to sign a non-disclosure agreement. So they attached the non-disclosure agreement. I reviewed it today. That non-disclosure agreement basically says that I'm not allowed to share, obviously, the figure. And they said I'm not allowed to talk about the situation that transpired, that led to the settlement. They also tried to put one clause in there about they don't want me to, so basically it's almost like a non-compete clause. So they don't want me to basically within 3 months. So after 3 months, they're happy for me to work with their competitor, but they don't want me to work for any competitor within 3 months. So are you going to pay me the additional 3 months then? I don't understand. So I went back to them. I marked up the NDA. I said, in order for this settlement to be in full and final settlement, so 3 months worth of invoices, what you're considering settlement. Before I accept that, let me be clear on my terms. I've marked up this non-disclosure agreement. I says, I reserve the right to discuss the situation that happened. I accept that I can't discuss the fact that there was a settlement, but I reserve the right. I said, because based on what my experience is, I may have to go to therapy because of the trauma. That means that if I sign this, I'll be in breach if I go to my therapist and tell her what happened. I'll be in breach immediately. And unless you're going to pay for private therapy sessions, unfortunately, you have to remove that I can't talk about it. I can talk about the situation, but I accept that I cannot talk about the fact that it was settled and then the settlement figure. I can accept that. I said, secondly, I can refer to the fact that there was a settlement. I should be able to say there was a settlement. Now, I may not be able to talk about how we arrived at the settlement, but I take into consideration that the settlement figure is protected. No problem. I said, this non-compete clause is null and void. I said, I'm not a permanent member of staff. I'm a consultant. And even if I was a permanent member of staff, this non-compete clause, you should have put in the contract between myself and you. You can't now put it in a non-disclosure agreement. Because if you don't want me to work with a competitor, effectively, if I was an employee, that would be garden leave. People on garden leave get paid. So if you don't want me to work with your competitor for 3 months, then you should be paying me the 3 months so that you definitely make sure I don't work for your competitor. I said, this is null and void. I said to them, the payment must be made on my last day, which is the 30th. Not 14 days, not 5 days, not 7 days. Must be made on the 30th. So I got an email back from a HR business partner, and with a final version of the NDA, they've accepted all my markup, and they're gonna settle me. Yeah, you heard me. Don't ever come for people's career and think that people ain't gonna challenge you. Are you kidding me? You genuinely think I wanted to be in this situation? Listen, I'm tired of writing letter before action, grievance. I'm tired. I'm actually tired because the format of it is the same. The format is the same. It's being attacked by a non-black person, and that non-black person thinking that they have some audacious authority to oppress me as a black woman. You see these people that don't want to see black excellence. They don't want to see it. And if they do see it, they want to control it. And that's the problem. I've got options. I will always make sure I have options. And I'll tell you the reason why. Because if I didn't have an option, that means I have to swallow what I'm going through with Florence. I have to swallow it. Some of you are swallowing things for the sake of money because you think you don't have options. But you don't have options because you haven't explored the possibility of creating options for yourself. I'm never going to allow any non-black person, or any person for that matter, but specifically a non-black person or a white person, to ever think that they can control me. That's not going to happen. I'm not an animal. I don't need to be controlled. I would just like to be respected. I would like to be dealt with a level of professionalism that I give. I don't want to be ignored. I don't want to be mistreated. I don't want to be misquoted. I don't want to feel like I'm under suspicion. Like I've stolen something. Florence's attack on me is tantamount to basically accusing me of being dishonest. That's the road we're going down. That retraction came today. It was a full, you know what a full retraction is? See how these people are stupid? Let me tell you how these people are stupid. They should have put the retraction in the NDA, that I'm not allowed to share the retraction. But they're so dumb. They're so stupid. That's when they think they're more intelligent than you. They think, because I'm a black woman, under the carpet. I'm not an under the carpet type of girl. And I don't kiss ass because Batty stinks. Yeah. I know if I don't wash my bum, it stinks. So I assume Batty stinks if you're kissing bum. I'm not kissing anyone's bum. I've never had to kiss anyone's bum to get to where I need to go. In life, it's not going to happen. Karma. Do you want more? Yeah, let me give you more. The HR business partner has resigned. Are you listening? The HR business partner has resigned. The lady I report into, she leaves at the end of July. Yeah. The guy, I already told you guys, the guy that reports into the lady, the one that has 150 something projects, he's resigned himself. But let me tell you something that's gonna make you laugh. I want you to know how tapped Florence is. She's tapped. She's actually very tapped. Annika sent me last week. She sent me an IM message. She said, Toya, I didn't know you were leaving. I said, I'm leaving. I said, my contract ends on the 30th. I've got no desire to extend. I said, I know they want to extend because of this additional project. I'm not interested. She said, Toya, well, you know, Florence was told that you're leaving. So she called me on Teams and to inform me that you're going. I said, okay. She said, Toya, but she asked me a very strange question. I said, what was that question? Toya, she asked me if you've got any other job because she's thinking of asking if you can join her team. I said, what? She said, yeah. She said, do I think you've got any other job lined up? Because she's thinking of talking to you about joining her team. I said, you know, Florence is not okay. I don't think she's okay. I said, but this is the woman you're choosing to work for. I said, be very careful. Because you didn't support her madness. You may be her next target, Annika. And as a fellow black woman, I'm just going to let you know that you're going to have to watch your back. Because it seems like here's every man for themselves. And fair enough, I've got no problem with that. I said, but there's no integrity amongst any of these people whatsoever. So, winner, 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 winner. We black women are winners. Come again now. Winner, 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 winner. We black women are winners. I don't start, I finish. We as black women have to be more qualified, more knowledgeable, more awake, more of what is accepted than as average. We have to be exceptional. We have to. So then imagine sacrificing time, effort, money to be above average. For a white woman to come now and attempt to discredit you, not because of anything other than the fact that she just doesn't like you. Or discredit you because they're trying to get you out of a job. Or discredit you and attack you to crush your self-esteem. No. No. That's not going to happen. You see, what I delivered to them was a healthy dose of karma. If they had dealt with this when I made it formal, we probably wouldn't have been here. Because I probably would have asked just for the retraction. Because at the time, I was none the wiser to Florence going to external law. I didn't know anything about that. So it would have been just a retraction. They would have saved themselves a heck of a lot of money. Innit? But they decided to deal with me like I was invisible. Oh, really? Okay, since I'm invisible, let me come in the night then. I'll be a nice little nightmare for you. A beautiful nightmare. Yeah, I'll be a beautiful nightmare. Do you understand when I say to you that you have to have options? Do you understand why I say that? Because at any one time, the rug can be pulled from underneath you. In the interview skills masterclass, I say it. You should still be interviewing. The probation masterclass, I make things very clear about how I passed probation when I was a perm. The formula, there is what do you call it? There's templates. I advise you how to do it. But there's something else I'm going to say to you. When you are on probation, and I say it during the probation masterclass, I'm going to say it again here. The organization are also on probation. When you're on probation, you're dating the job. It's non-exclusive dating. If it's non-exclusive, stop acting as though you're exclusive to that organization and keep interviewing. Because there's no guarantee that you're going to pass your probation, you know. There's none. There's absolutely no guarantee. There's things you can put in place to mitigate a possibility of them not extending. Yeah, there's certain things, and I can teach you those things. But even when you're in the throes of the job, you need to know what's happening in your market. Whether you are an accountant, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a lawyer, you need to know what's happening in your space. You need to be periodically updating your CV, and I say it to you during the CV masterclass. You need to be periodically speaking to recruiters, and even if you're applying for jobs that you know you're not going to take, I encourage you to apply for them and do the interview. There is a reason why I get 95% of roles, because I don't stop interviewing. Hello, every 2 months, I'm doing interviews, mate. I've perfected my interviews. My formula works. And all of this is to create options. Because you're working in often white-dominated industries, created for the benefit of white people, for the progression and enhancement of white people. But they know that if they want best in class, they've got to come to us. Because we know that we are exceptional. We have to do more than. But do they value you? No. That's why they try and get you on the cheap. Do they value you? No. This is why they often create a toxic environment, then guilt trip you into staying. God forbid you resign. Oh, you resign? Some of them, they take it as a personal slight. They won't allow you to resign in peace, some of these people. And it leads me to my next thing. These times now, I've made clear I'm leaving on the 30th. Everyone knows I'm leaving. Yeah? I've told the powers that be, they know. I want you to explain to me how these people are still on violence, despite what is happening. I emailed the IT department. I says, can you please make arrangements for the collection of my laptop? My last day is on the 30th. Didn't hear anything. I chased them. Then I put the person I report into, I put her on copy. They said to me, they apologise. They haven't got back to me. That I should drop it off at their London offices. I says, that's not going to happen. I says, when you sent me this laptop, you used a courier. That's the same courier you're going to use, or any other courier you want, to come and collect your laptop. Because we're not doing this. Yeah? I work remotely. I'm not going to buy a ticket into London just to drop off your laptop. Unless now you're saying that you're going to pay for the ticket. That's no problem. Okay, then I'll do it as a day out. But you're not going to inconvenience me. And I couldn't help but feel that either HR or the lady I report into has spoken to IT, because it just didn't make sense to me. I don't even live in London, and they know this, so I don't understand. Because I said it in the email to them that I don't live in London, and therefore the option to drop it off is not there, that they need to come and collect it the same way they dropped it off to me. Do you know what the lady I report into said to me in the email? She said, Toya, we were hoping that you would change your mind and stay. As in stay in the organisation. Hence why IT never got back to me. So when I sent an email to IT, she must have contacted IT and said, we're hoping Toya's going to change her mind, so don't even take your time in following up with her. This is violent, you know. I'm sorry. This is actually violent. It's actually aggressive. Someone is leaving and you're sabotaging them trying to leave. Can we just... I want to leave in peace. I'm on wind down at the moment. You know what wind down is? I'm just using my Jesus mind to even respond to their emails. Otherwise, I've already finished there. So then, IT then come back to me, and they're like, "Oh, if I want them to send a courier, they can't give me packaging for the laptop." I said, "Really?" They said, "Yeah, okay, no problem." I said to them, "I'm going to draft a document whereby I will use bubble wrap I already have in my house, and I already have the original packaging in which the laptop was sent to me. But given that you don't want to give me your packaging or to wrap up the laptop, you then need to sign something to say that you take liability for anything that happens to that laptop in transit." I drafted it quickly, I sent it to them. They came back to me and said, "Toya, we confirm that we accept any liability." I says, "No problem." Because again, I have to be one step ahead of these people. I've got Florence trying to flip and destroy my career. I'm not going to have IT now saying that in a fit of rage I destroyed their laptop and this is how it arrived at their office. We're not doing that. We are protecting ourselves and covering all bases. Ladies, can you understand when I'm saying that you have to be one step ahead of these people? Stop looking for friendship in these people. Some of them are not going to give you the friendship in which you're looking for in these workplaces. And that friendship that you're looking for in the workplace is acceptance. They're not going to give it to you. Whenever I start a new contract, there's a couple of mantras that I have, and I'm going to share them with you. I have an objective. So I say, I have an objective, and I write them down. What is my objective for taking this contract? Write them down. So my first mantra is, I have an objective. I have objectives. My second one is, I aim to complete this contract. My third one is, may I operate with covering. May I protect myself and ask the ancestors to protect me. And may I do this role to the best of my ability. Those are my 5 mantras. And I have them on my wall near my vision board for each contract. Because each contract is different, right? You have different motivations for doing different things. So for me, this contract, for me, it was working in a certain space that I haven't worked in before. And it is now allowing me now to add another string to my bow. So this contract made perfect sense, especially with the direction of the way the world is going. It works. It works. Because those mantras are the things that are going to get me through difficult days. Those are the things that I wish as a perm I had mantras. Because what happens is, as a perm, you have that's why I say to you have to have objectives. You have to have objectives. But the reason why I have my mantras is every day I know that it may bring a new challenge. And for me, I need to remind myself what I'm trying to achieve. What are those 5 things I'm trying to achieve and get to? There is nothing more satisfying as a contractor for me getting to the end of my contract. I love it. And I would say the last 2 contracts have been very wild. And I put it down to kind of COVID, and I put it also down to the fact that a lot of people are working from home, and I feel as though a lot of people have gotten really comfortable, so they're acting mad. The current contract that I'm working, so my other contract that I work on, I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's a bit more peaceful. You know, I know what I'm doing. I'm just a bit more, I feel there's a bit more balance there. Do you know what I mean? But I never keep my foot off the pedal. I stay woke and I stay alert and I stay awake. It is your responsibility to know what your objective is. Whether you're a perm, whether you're part-time, whether you're bank staff, whether you're contracting, you need to have you need to have objectives. You need to have motivations for waking up in the morning to do this job. You have to dedicate yourself to being a subject matter expert and allowing yourself to develop a unique selling point. And unique selling point can be that you are in a very niche area. But never forget that not everybody you sit in front of, not every remote meeting you have, are people going to support you even when you are right. But what you need to do is be convicted in yourself. You need to have self-belief. And part of that self-belief comes from self-worth. The same self-worth and confidence these people willfully try to attack. I can't even lie to you. When I found out that Florence went to external lawyers, I felt attacked, but I felt it in a slightly different way. It felt like she was trying to build a case against me, and she had tried to do it internally and failed. And now she's basically trying to go external to prove some type of point. But it felt so personal. This woman's been in this organisation for a few months. I don't understand. Then can you imagine my confusion after all said and done? This woman is speaking to a member of staff, knowing that I'm leaving, knowing the reasons why they would have told her, believe that. And she thinks I'm going to work in her team. Some people are actually very tapped in certain organisations. And you know where it comes from? A lot of it comes from white privilege. They're so disconnected with reality. Florence is very disconnected with reality. She's mad. But go and write it down and say I said. One day, Florence is going to meet the right person and it'll be the wrong time for her. And the organisation is going to find themselves in an employment tribunal defending the defenceless. And someone's going to take them to the cleaners. Because Florence is a liability. A liability. I told them, that HR business partner and the CEO, I said, you need to put Florence on a risk register. She's a direct risk to this organisation. Because she's going to cause you to go to an employment tribunal. Me, I'm going to cause you to go to a civil court to deal with this defamation of character. But an employment tribunal, I said, that I can see that. That's going to happen. I told them, of course you're going to settle me out of court. They have to settle me out of court. Because their inactivity is basically complicit in allowing Florence to do what she's doing. Their silence basically is allowed yes, and it's allowed support for Florence to do what she's doing. After all, it's the company's money she spent to go to the external people to come and get them to review my work. They've got to settle me. Of course they do. And I want you to remember, I'm a consultant. So I have much more limited rights than you perm employees. And yet some of you don't know how to use the system to support, to advocate for yourselves. I've got so many podcast episodes, so many examples, so many life experiences. And yet some of you fail to tap into, and you know I hate the F word, the word fail. But some of you don't allow yourself to tap into what you need to do to protect yourself. Some of you will send me emails, I'll ask you about burn folder, and you'll ask me what's a burn folder. I've already disengaged. I've realised that you haven't committed to this podcast in the way that I've committed to giving you guys information. So, on the 30th of June, I'll be paid my settlement figure. I'll be paid my invoice that I'm going to invoice them. And I'll be closing that chapter. Do I regret it? No. I've learned so much. I've learned a heck of a lot. They thought I was timid. Oh, Toya, she just gets on with it. No, I'm not. Just because I get on with it doesn't make me a carpet. I don't have a welcome sign on my back. No, we're not doing all that. And I don't have to raise my voice. I don't have to scream. I don't have to do anything. I just have to understand the policies, the governance policies, the rules, and my legal rights. That's all I need to know. Everything else is experience. Before I wrap up this episode, I'm sure some of you are wondering about a handover. Let me be clear. Handovers are, and I've said this before, handovers are good practice. They were nice to have. But just understand that handover is a gift. It's a gift. And there's no legal obligation for me to give you a handover. Absolutely not. Some of these employers need to put handovers in their employment contracts. They don't want to have that conversation because they're not thinking about them things. They think people will just give a handover because they're so afraid. No, I don't. Hello. I'm not doing a handover here. I'll tell you that much. Because if they want a handover, I have no issue. But in my contract, I've made it clear that there's a separate rate for handovers. Yeah. Because extra work. You hired me as a commercial contract consultant. You didn't hire me as a handover manager. If you want me to do handover, that means I have to take time away from what you've contracted me to do a handover. That's a separate piece of work. Now, I'm going to be clear with you. There's some places I've worked as a contractor, as a perm. I just do it out of goodwill. Yeah, it don't have to be awkward. I'm leaving. You guys are okay. You're not mistreating me. No problem. I give you handover. If you make it like a task that must be accomplished, I'm telling you this now. If you make it difficult for me, I will make the handover so high level that you'll even be pissed off. You won't even use it again. But it'll still be a handover, right? Handover is a gift. It's not a must. They're not getting any handover from me. The person that you said that is not good enough and not doing the job. No. And now, okay, so let me get this right, Florence. So you didn't think my contract was good enough, all of this, but you think I'm good enough to come to your team. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you all something. You see some of these white people, these non-black people, they know who is good at what they do. They know. Who doesn't want the best? We want it. Florence wants me on her team. And you know the reason why she wants me on her team? Because I'm bloody good at what I do. But she wants to be the piper playing the tune. And that's not how it's going to run. There'll be mutual respect. You're not going to disrespect me. But it's an honor. It's an honor for me to be working there. And I tell you why. Because there's 245 contracts on the risk register. Yes, there is. 245 contracts on the risk register. It's an honor for her for me to work for her. I'm not going to work for her. She's mad. She's actually mad. No way. Like, it's like walking into a trap. Am I mad? I'm not mad. I'm not mad. And let me tell you something as well. I find it very aggressive and very violent when organizations come to contractors to try and force us to be perms. We're contracting for a reason. Your perm salary, it does not even touch the surface of what we earn as a contractor for some of us. But you think we should then put our contractor hats in the bin to come and be a perm for you? What's so great? What do you have to offer? What do you have to offer? And then when you're not interested, they start making life difficult for you because they feel slighted. Please shine your eyes. Shine your eyes. And start having a backup plan and a backup plan for the backup plan. Start allowing yourself to have leverage so that you can have options, so that you can have choices. Choices allows for freedom. Some of you are in work bondage. Some of you are in a work bondage. And then you'll come every week and listen, but you're not really hearing what I'm saying because I'm giving you tips to be proactive. So if you're not being proactive, are you really assimilating the things I'm teaching here, the things I'm talking about here? I can't remember where I heard it. And I hope that I quote it properly. But you do realise that every week I come here and I deliver the podcast, but I'm having to tap into my work trauma to be able to do this. I'm having to tap. Do you not think this experience with Florence has not left its imprint of some type of trauma? Bloody well has. I'll tell you that much. So if I'm tapping into my trauma every week so that it can benefit black queens in my community, don't you think you then do yourself a disservice if you're not going to learn and take the teachings and the learnings to be great? Isn't the goal to reach your full potential to be great? Isn't that the goal? Because it bloody well should be. Because each and every one of us has a greatness within us. We have a purpose. And it's your job to guide that purpose. It's your job to guide that greatness. And when I say guide it, protect it. Protect it. If I was really truly to feel everything I have experienced, I would be a shadow of myself. I'd be a wreck. I'd be a wreck. These are the same organizations that are talking about mental health and well-being. What happened to my mental health and well-being when Florence is basically trying to crush me? For no reason. She's got absolutely no reason. In her retraction, there was no justification for her behavior other than a full admission of guilt and apologies reigning in it. I've got it here. Don't play with me. Don't play with me. Not when it comes to our careers, what we work hard for. Our parents sacrificed, for some of us, our parents sacrificed to give us a better life. Better than them. Better than the life they had. Our parents sacrificed. Then after sacrificing, after walking into the wilderness, after being slapped with below average roles. So you think that when I was in law school and I was picking up night job cleaning toilets, you think I was doing it because it's what, child's play? I was sowing into my garden, sowing seed. So I can't have this stupid, mad terror, Florence, coming now to rob me of you actually lost your mind, you know. But some of you are in a bondage, allowing yourself to be robbed of your own greatness. These people are robbing you. Some of you don't actually understand. It's also a skill to hold on to a job. It's a bloody skill. It is, because we are literally walking in a jungle full of lions, tigers, and bears. It's a skill to hold on to a job. So those of you that are able to hold on to a job, understand that that's a skill. What we're talking about now is finding balance in the environment that we're working in. We just want balance because there's no perfect environment. There's none. But give me balance in the environment that I'm working in to enable me to do the job to the best of my ability. That's what we're looking for, isn't it? I'm not asking you to treat me like I'm the best employee or staff member in the world. Give me balance. Let me breathe so I can actually do the job you've employed me to do before you now start talking about my performance. Because some people can't perform because their environment is toxic. Their environment is so toxic. And some of you don't know when to leave. You don't know when to leave. Let me be honest with you. If I wanted to stay on here, I could. Very easily. But even I know that God, the ancestors, they have told me that 30th is the end of a chapter. It's the end of a chapter. Anything prolonging it is now greed on my part. Sometimes you have to learn when to go on a high. I'm on a high. I've delivered the project. I've delivered it. It's audit ready. I've got all the feedback from all the stakeholders in my feedback folder about how the contract was delivered, about how the end result was, how they're so happy. I've got all of it in my feedback folder. And these are all the evidence I would have taken to court. Yeah, in this defamation case, I would have taken it there. If you want to be able to find balance in an organization or in your work environment, should I say, you have to be able to find your voice and advocate for yourself, but you have to be clear to yourself what your objectives are. And most importantly, it's also remembering how you see the role. You're expecting these jobs to be loyal to you because you've been doing how many years service. Some of you have never taken a sick day in your life. But those organizations don't owe you shit. They don't owe you nothing. Imagine, upon delivering the contract, these people are still mistreating me. Do you know it's a mistreatment to not respond to somebody's grievance complaint? What's that? But you know you owe them duty of care. Can you see? Karma. All these people doing all these things. That's why I say, come with a clean hands, clean mind and try your best. Do your best. Come with a cleanness in your soul. And I promise you, you may not always have a front row seat to karma, but karma will go and meet them where they are. I promise you that Florence will never, ever, ever forget me. And every black woman she meets will be a reminder of what she was delivered from with me. And even if it doesn't completely change her behavior, it will cause her to have pause before she goes on her madness. I really hope that you've taken the learnings from this episode, and in sharing this trauma, because it's part of my trauma, it's part of my experience in the workplace, that you take the learnings. You take the learnings. I'm really, really looking forward to having more time to focus on my other contract. I'm looking forward to having more time for Toya Talks Academy and all the stuff I'm doing there. I want to focus on balance, because body no be firewood. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. If it's not raging racist in my last contract, it's a Rolling Stones of madness in Florence. I don't understand. I literally feel like I need a holiday, and by the grace of God, Kay and I are going on holiday because I'm tired. Anyway, I want to thank you all for listening. I hope that this episode has been well worth the wait. I know that there has been a couple of emails that have come in the mailbox. I will be responding to them, but I will be responding also next week on the Toya Talks podcast, where we'll be obviously exploring another topic and we will be sharing, learning and growing together. Thank you so much for all your love and support. Thank you for all the DMs that I recently received as well. Thank you for re-listening to the episodes and understanding that when you listen to something the first time, you get it, you learn, you grow, but there is something very beautiful about re-listening and allowing it to sink in a bit deeper into your thought process. I really hope that you're able to take a lot of the practical tools and skills that I talk about and I teach on here throughout the whole of the Toya Talks platform, to be able to guide, teach and educate you, to enable you to navigate the world of work. And I want you all to know there's no such thing as a perfect organisation. No matter how senior, how much you earn, there is always going to be difficult situations that you're going to have to deal with as a black woman. It's unfortunate, but this is where we find ourselves. Leverage gives you power. Power gives you options. Options give you choices, and choices lead to freedom. If you want to follow me on social media, my social media handles, my Instagram handle is Toya_Washington. The Toya Talks podcast Instagram page is Toya_Talks. I'm also on TikTok, Toya_Washington. If you want to follow me in the birthplace, at the birthplace of Toya Talks, which is Snapchat, it's Toya_Washington. I'm also on Twitter, which is Toya_Talks with the hashtag Toya Talks or Toya Talks podcast. And I will see you all again next week for a brand new episode of the Toya Talks podcast. Make sure you share this episode. Make sure you re-listen to previous episodes or share episodes. This is how we are able to grow knowledge within the community. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you all. If you have any work-related dilemmas, then email hello@toyatalks.com. And I will see you all again next week. My name is Toya Washington, and you have been listening to the Toya Talks podcast.